My name is Delphine Marie LeBlanc. I am 62 years old, and for 41 of those years I have started every morning the same way. 4:30 alarm, strong community coffee with chicory, 2 sugars, then down on my knees with bleach water and a scrub brush to clean the hallways of St. Augustine High School in the 9th Ward before the children arrived. That is who I was before the night somebody poured a whole tureen of crawfish étouffée in my face at Commander's Palace and told me, "This is what trash like you deserves." This is the story I never thought I would have to tell out loud, but the silence almost killed me, so now I speak. I raised my only child, Etienne Joseph LeBlanc, by myself after his daddy drowned in the industrial canal the week Katrina came. Etienne was 7 years old, standing on the roof with me while the water took everything we owned. I held him so tight that night he still has the half-moon scars from my fingernails on his little arms. I swore to God and to the river that my boy would never want for nothing again. I worked 2, sometimes 3 jobs. Janitor by day, pressed uniforms at the Hilton by night, sold plates on the weekend. Whatever it took. Tin saw me come home with cracked hands and still kiss him goodnight with bleach still under my nails. He used to fall asleep whispering, "Mama, when I grow up I'm gonna buy you a big house uptown so you never have to scrub another floor." Children say sweet things. Sometimes they even mean them. Etienne grew tall and fine, graduated top of Xavier University, passed the Louisiana bar first try, and landed a corner office at one of the oldest firms on Poydras Street. I was so proud the day he brought me to take a picture in front of that gold lettering on the building I almost cried right there on the sidewalk. Then he met Vivienne Marguerite Claiborne, only heir to the Claiborne sugar fortune, old Creole money that went back to before the Louisiana Purchase. Her people still own half the plantations between here and Baton Rouge and a mansion on St. Charles Avenue with 24 rooms and a ballroom big enough to park a Mardi Gras float. The first time I met Vivienne's mother, Mrs. Marguerite Claiborne, everybody just called her Madame Marguerite. She looked me up and down like I was something stuck to the bottom of her Chanel pump. We were at a casual lunch at Galatoire's and I had worn my best Sunday suit I made myself out of navy dupioni silk. She smiled that thin uptown smile and said, "So you're the little janitor lady who raised our Etienne." Not a question. A verdict. I swallowed it. I swallowed everything for my son. The way they never invited me to the engagement party at the country club. The way they put me at the very last table at the bridal shower like I was catering staff. The way Madame Marguerite corrected my pronunciation every time I said my own son's fiancé's name. "It's Vivian, darling, not Vivian like the projects." I smiled and said yes and kept my hands folded in my lap so nobody would see them shake. The wedding was set for the second Saturday in May at Holy Name of Jesus on St. Charles, reception to follow at Commander's Palace, only the courtyard and the upstairs rooms, the whole restaurant closed to the public. 800 people. Ice sculptures. A 10-tier cake. Second-line brass band. Everything paid for by the Claiborne Trust that Vivienne would gain full control of the day she said I do. 3 weeks before the wedding I got a manila envelope slid under the door of my little shotgun house on North Prairie Street. No stamp, no return address, just my name in perfect ink. Inside were photographs that made my knees give out right there on the linoleum. My Etienne, my baby boy, coming out of the Windsor Court Hotel at 2 in the morning with his arm around Madame Marguerite's waist. Another one of them on the balcony of a condo in the warehouse district. Her in a silk robe, him kissing the back of her neck. A third one, Lord forgive me for even saying it, of them in bed together, sheets barely covering what they were doing. And bank records showing $25, $30, $50,000 moving from her personal account to his every month for the past 2 years. I sat on my kitchen floor and screamed until my throat bled. Then I got quiet. Real quiet. The kind of quiet that comes right before a hurricane makes landfall. I hired a private investigator out of Jefferson Parish, a retired NOPD detective named Renee. 2 weeks and $10,000 I didn't have later. He handed me a flash drive that finished breaking whatever was left of my heart. Audio of my son and that woman laughing about how easy Vivienne was to fool. Audio of Madame Marguerite saying, "After the honeymoon we'll take her out on the boat, one little push, tragic accident, and then all this money is ours, baby." Audio of my own child saying, "Whatever you need, Mama," calling that devil woman Mama while planning to kill an innocent girl for sugar money. I thought about going to the police. I thought about walking into Etienne's office with those pictures and slapping them across his pretty face. I thought about taking the streetcar uptown with my daddy's old .38 and handling it Ninth Ward style. But none of that would save Vivienne. None of that would make my son feel what he needed to feel. So I made one phone call. Not to the police. To Miss Laveau Claiborne, Vivienne's great-aunt, Madame Marguerite's aunt by marriage, the one they all crossed the street to avoid because she still practiced the old ways and sat on the criminal court bench for 30 years before she retired. Everybody said Miss Laveau could make a judge rule in your favor or make your enemy's hair fall out, depending on her mood that day. I didn't care about hair. I cared about justice. I took the flash drive, the photographs, the bank records, and every tear I had cried, put them in a showbox, and took the bus to her house on Esplanade. Miss Laveau was 91 years old, skin like polished mahogany, white hair wrapped in a purple geal. She listened to everything without saying a word, rocking slow in her chair while the ceiling fan turned. When I finished, she closed her eyes, took my hand in both of hers, and said, "Child, you just handed me my niece's death warrant. Blood don't mean nothing when it's poisoned. Leave this with me." The wedding day came. I put on the same navy suit I wore to Galatoire's, the one Madame Marguerite had laughed at. I added my grandmother's cameo and the tiny gold cross I wore when Etienne made his first communion. I looked respectable. I looked like somebody's mama. I took my seat in the church anyway, even though my name wasn't on the family pews. I watched my son stand at the altar in his tails looking like a prince while that woman sat in the front row in pale gold like a queen about to be crowned. The priest asked if anyone had just cause. I stayed quiet. That wasn't the moment. The reception at Commander's was everything they said it would be: crystal chandeliers, turtle soup, shrimp remoulade, jazz trio, oysters on ice sculptures shaped like alligators. They put me at table 22 in the corner by the kitchen doors with cousins nobody claimed. I ate slow, smiled when I had to, and kept my phone in my lap. Etienne danced with his bride. Then it was time for the mother-son dance. He walked over, offered his hand like he was doing me a favor. We swayed under the chandeliers while the band played A Mother's Love. He smelled like Aqua di Parma and betrayal. "You happy, baby?" I asked soft. "Never been happier, Mama." "That's good," I said. "Real good." His hand tightened on mine. "Why you looking at me like that?" "Like what, son?" "Like you know something." I smiled the smile I used when children lied about breaking a window at school. "Maybe I do." That was when Madame Marguerite decided she was done pretending. She marched over with a whole silver tureen of crawfish étouffée the waiter had been carrying to the head table, lifted it high, and poured every scalding drop over my head. The sauce burned my scalp, ran down my neck, soaked my navy silk until it clung to me like shame. The whole room went dead silent except for the jazz trio who didn't know whether to stop playing. She stood over me smiling that serpent smile. "This is what trash like you deserves, Delphine. Know your place." The waiter dropped his tray. Vivienne screamed. Somebody's aunt fainted. And my son, my only child, the one I carried 9 months and raised through hell and high water, looked down at me dripping orange on the marble floor and said clear as day, "She's right, Mama. You shouldn't have come." I didn't fall apart. I took the white cloth napkin off the table, wiped the sauce from my eyes, folded it neat, laid it down, and stood up straight. Every eye in that courtyard was on me. I looked Madame Marguerite dead in hers. "Careful, Marguerite," I said calm. "Hot sauce burns going down, but the truth burns hotter coming up." Then I took my little beaded purse, walked through the crowd parting like the Red Sea, and stepped out onto Camp Street where the second-line band was waiting for the newlyweds. I pulled my phone out, pressed one button, and said the 3 words I had been holding for weeks. "It's time." I hung up, got in the lift I had waiting, and rode back to the 9th Ward with crawfish sauce cooling on my skin and the first real smile I'd had in 2 years on my face. By the time the dessert course was supposed to be served, 6 Louisiana State Police cruisers rolled up to Commander's Palace with lights flashing. Miss Laveau Claiborne walked in wearing all white like she was going to a baptism, leaning on her cane carved like a snake, followed by 2 assistant district attorneys and 4 uniformed officers. She didn't raise her voice. She simply handed Vivienne the photographs, pressed play on the recording of her mother planning her murder, and watched the whole Claiborne empire collapse in real time. Vivienne fainted dead away in her wedding gown. Madame Marguerite started screaming about fake evidence and called Miss Laveau every name in the book until the officers put cuffs on her right there between the bread pudding and the Café AU late station. Etienne tried to run. They caught him at the door still wearing his morning coat, face wet with tears, begging anybody to listen. Nobody did. The annulment was signed before the sun came up Monday morning. The trust was frozen. The St. Charles Avenue mansion went into receivership by Friday. Madame Marguerite is serving 12 years at Louisiana Correctional Institute for Women. Last I heard she lost 40 pounds and all her hair. Miss Laveau said sometimes the Loa work faster than the courts. Tin came to my door 3 months later looking like death warmed over. Suit wrinkled, shoes cracked, eyes red like he hadn't slept since May. He stood on my porch with his hands shaking. "Mama, I got nowhere else to go." I looked at him for a long time. Then I said, "You got the whole world, baby. You just threw away the part that mattered." "Mama, please." "No." I closed the door soft. Didn't slam it. Didn't need to. 2 years have passed. I still scrub floors at St. Augustine. I still drink my coffee with chicory at 4:30. But now Miss Laveau comes sit with me on my gallery some Sundays and we drink sweet tea and watch the children play. Vivienne, she asked me to call her Vivi now, finished school, opened a little counseling center for women coming out of prison, and she calls me Miss Delphine like I hung the moon. Sometimes she brings me crawfish étouffée she cooked herself. I eat every bite. Etienne sent me a letter last month from a halfway house in Baton Rouge. His working maintenance at the state capitol, going to meetings, trying to put the pieces back together. He wrote, "I understand now why you closed that door, Mama. I had to learn how to knock different." I haven't answered yet. Some things take longer than 2 years. Some things take a lifetime. But every May, on the anniversary of that wedding, I put on my navy suit, clean now, pressed perfect, and I ride the streetcar uptown. I get off at Commander's Palace, stand on the corner, and look at that courtyard where they poured hot sauce on me like I was nothing. Then I smile, get back on the streetcar, and ride home to the 9th Ward where I belong. Because the river always gives back what it takes. And sometimes justice wears a janitor's uniform and takes her own sweet time. That is my story. That is the truth. And I lived it so you don't have to.